The Dallas Cowboys took care of business in Week 11, defeating the Carolina Panthers. How impressive was this win? We'll discuss that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, today we are breaking down the Cowboys' big, quote-unquote, big win over the Carolina Panthers, 33-10. Before we get into the specifics of this game, was this an impressive win for you?
Sure. I mean, look, you can't make the other team more impressive. Like you can't make your own schedule. You can't make the team that you're having to face every week more impressive to make your wins look better. All you can do is cover, baby, and good teams win, great teams cover. I'd learned that from the great Marcus Mosher, and honestly, it's held true. I mean, look, I think this is why this is a trap game, right? Is that if the Cowboys had come in here and done what I was talking about all week, what I was afraid of that they would do all week, they start flat and continued it, unable to score points, unable to do things. I think that would have been a negative. The fact that they're avoiding the things that the previous Cowboys bad teams would do, right? Which is playing down to their opponents. I think that's the big difference this year, and I think the fact that it's happening consistently. Look, there was obviously the Arizona game, but I think the fact that you're showing that you show up to these games even if at lesser opponents and still take care of business. I think that's a positive development for this team, as if you're looking holistically through the years, right? So, yes. I mean, you can only win this game by so many points, and it's never going to be impressive enough to anyone. So, I think the Cowboys clearly did what they needed to do to win this game, and had Dak Prescott on the sideline with the ball cap before the end of the game. So to me, that's a successful win for the Cowboys against this team.
Absolutely. I will also say one of the reasons to me it was impressive is because of this moment that happened late in the third quarter. So Carolina went on this 17-play, 70-yard touchdown drive that was aided by the Sam Williams penalty on fourth down. It's now Cowboys are up 17-10. And I'm not a big momentum guy, but it did feel like Carolina got themselves back into a game that they probably shouldn't have been in, right? Like they actually have a chance to steal a game at home against a much better team. How did the Cowboys respond on offense after that drive? 8 plays, 75 yards, touchdown drive in 3 minutes, and it was efficient. It was right down the field. It's those moments that make it feel like a big one, because what happened after that, Landon? The next play, it was a pick six for DaRon Bland. So this went from a 1-score game at the 2-minute mark to a 2-score game with 13:48 in the fourth quarter. And it seems like this is continually what happens with the Cowboys is they can have things snowball so quickly on opponents where the game is basically out of reach. It was a 21-point game after, I guess, a 20-point game 7 plays later.
Yeah, and I think that to me is like that's the difference between this team and previous years' teams of teams that were good teams, right? That like still struggled to do exactly what you're talking about. Take a couple punches from teams that didn't want to go down easy, and then still turn around and make the big explosive plays to pull this game away. And keep it out of reach for an inferior opponent. In previous years, we would have seen the Cowboys take that game into the fourth quarter and maybe win it late or maybe not, right? That's the difference between, and I think that's why this is something that I've really kind of learned over the years, why point differential actually does make a difference, right? And why it's an actually good stat, because teams that take care of business, and ultimately it reflects in points. And yeah, it's good to win close games, but it's the NFL. Those are all coin flips, no matter who these teams are. So the good teams find ways to spread things out, get ahead, and stay ahead. And I think that, say what you want about the quality of the teams that the Cowboys have done it to. Outside of teams that are considered to be top 5 in this league, they've basically done it to every other opponent that they've faced so far this season.
It's like my philosophy on third downs. The best way to convert on third down is just to avoid them altogether. Same thing for close games. If you don't want to put yourself into a coin flip game every single week, just go blow out the opponent. And we've seen time and time again this year, good teams have struggled to put away bad teams, and it ends up costing you. The Cowboys did that earlier in the season against the Cardinals. Although, to be fair, the Cowboys never held a lead at any point in that game. This was much, much different, right? So just to clarify here, it was 9 total plays in the game, 9 snaps where it went from 17-10 to 30-10, and basically the game was over. That's how fast it happened.
Which is exactly what happened, like a couple weeks ago
against the Rams.
The speed, the way that these games turn around with the Cowboys, making a big play on defense, and then suddenly the offense kicking it into gear right after that. The Cowboys have been really good about suddenly bursting points and turning these games around and then not letting go. And I think we just saw another example of that this week.
We should mention their defense really quickly before we start talking about. We're going to talk about a certain corner for the Dallas Cowboys. Don't you worry. But the Cowboys defense, for the most part, did everything you want them to do in this game. They gave up 10 points, 187 total yards they allowed. They did force 2 turnovers. We'll get to one of those turnovers. Yes, that one drive was disappointing, but I can live with giving up 1 touchdown drive, especially when you're leading and that drive ends up basically burning the entire third quarter.
And especially since they basically had to convert 3 fourth downs in order to continue that drive. The Cowboys, I think, kept the Panthers 0 for 3 on third downs on the drive that they scored on, which is crazy to say, but it's true. But they were unfortunately, I think, 3 for 3 on fourth downs on that drive. So I think, for the most part, the Panthers maybe ran the ball a little bit more than you felt comfortable. But honestly, I think if they're going to take those chunks out, at 4 or 5 yards, and then fail to kind of get into manageable third downs consistently and not be able to convert those, I'll continue to play my shell coverage and keep everything in front of us, and make someone like Bryce Young kind of, drive the length of the field. And clearly he wasn't up for it for the most part. And it's ironically, that's what the Panthers were clearly doing to the Cowboys on the other side of the ball. But the difference was the playmakers on the Cowboys offense were able to kind of overcome all the shell coverage that Carolina was playing.
Yeah, the Panthers ran the ball well, but it's the lack of big plays that the Cowboys gave up. So the Cowboys gave up 1 20-yard reception to Stephen Sullivan. Actually, a really nice throw by Bryce Young.
Yeah, it was.
Adam Thielen had a 16-yard catch, and then no other plays above 15 yards all game. So you can live with that. Even if you're giving up 5 yards per carry on the ground, if you're not allowing big plays in the passing game and you're not allowing big runs, you're pretty easy to survive those punches. Landon, we've got to talk about DaRon Bland. I know you and I have done this several times. Just kind of, we just give so much praise for DaRon Bland and what he's done. I think we need to have another conversation about DaRon Bland. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It is so easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn. All you have to do is add your job and then the purple #hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We wanted to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories every single day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, Landon, let's talk about DaRon Bland. He had another pick six today. This is his fourth of the season. I think he has, is it 6 pick sixes now in 2 years, I believe is the
That
number.
sounds right.
11 total interceptions. Got some questions for you. Number one, is he the second best defender on this team right now?
I think it's certainly a solid question. I'm inclined to say yes at this point. I think so. I mean, it's not just the interceptions. I mean, the way he's in coverage as well. Like, I mean, I think
He wasn't the guy they were picking on today.
Yeah, no, he certainly wasn't. I think that, you know, it's the overall aspect of his game, right? What's crazy to me is that, you know, this was what Trayvon Diggs was doing before he got injured. Right, like he was getting interceptions, getting turnovers. Well, maybe not at the rate that Bland was at this point.
No, and I mean, I love Trayvon. This team still misses Trayvon, but Trayvon would give up a lot. I mean, he would have some big games where he give up yards. Bland's not right now. I think that's the difference.
I think that's the difference with Diggs before he got injured this year.
Yes,
was that he had eliminated a lot of that stuff.
And last year we saw that to a degree. Yes.
Yeah, we were happy to see that kind of development, and then suddenly we see Bland fully developed in both of those areas where he's getting the same amount of interceptions and also giving up little yards. Look, DaRon Bland, I mean, statistically, analytically, like when he was coming out of college at Fresno, like he was one of the best man coverage corners in college football. And man coverage is not something that's done exclusively or at a higher rate, especially compared to the NFL. So he came into the NFL with this skill set. I think that, you know, he clearly was a guy that got overlooked. I mean, it's not just that he's, you know, an incredibly talented player. He's clearly incredibly intelligent. He's a very hard worker. He is steady as they come. I mean, look at all the kind of situations that he is continually being thrown into. And he's not like barely keeping his head above water, guys. He has more pick sixes than anyone in NFL history in one season, and he, you know, is
how many games we have left? We still have 7 games left.
Still have 7 games left. You know, so again, like it's
2
almost
games with
like,
Sam Howell left.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, geez, that pass at the end of the game today what was he doing, man? I just think that it's the combination of all the things, right? If it was just if this was just a Trayvon Diggs in his rookie season, you know, or a second year season kind of situation, maybe we like, you know, can kind of brush it off because, okay, he's getting beat a lot, but it's a high risk, high reward situation. That's not the case with Bland. He's getting these interceptions and shutting folks down. It's been such a surprising boon to this defense that, I mean, let's be honest, we just have not talked about the fact that Trayvon Diggs has been injured. And that is the biggest compliment you could possibly pay DaRon Bland. And he's showing out in a way that none of us. I mean, look, I thought he was going to blossom into a star. I said it on Locked On Sports today. Like as soon as Trayvon Diggs got injured, even I didn't anticipate what he's been doing so far.
So on the broadcast, Greg Olsen said, DaRon Bland, he's going to be a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro player. And I just thought about it. I'm like, All-Pro.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so. Right?
Yeah.
Then I was watching the game with my brother and my cousin, and I asked one of them, I'm like, so if he is an All-Pro corner, is he like in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year this year with 4 pick sixes already? Like, how could he not be?
How would he not be? Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't understand how, like, statistically, he's tied an NFL record for historical output at pick sixes. And frankly, he's, you know, and let's not even just talk about just interceptions in general. Like he's at a pace that no one else is currently in the NFL. Yeah. I mean, I think we've gone well beyond fluky into this guy's a player and needs to be recognized. And I don't know if he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but I mean, he certainly should be getting put in the conversation. And I certainly think that he's in the conversation, if not at the top of the conversation. I'm going to say it, for best corner in the entire league.
It's
right
crazy.
I
So
mean,
he has
you know,
6 interceptions this year. I'm pretty sure he's going to grade out as PFF's number 1 rated cornerback after 11 weeks. We'll check in on that tomorrow. Absolutely insane. But one of the reasons why he might not win that award is because of somebody who plays ahead of him. Micah Parsons had a huge game. Now, I did see after the game, the NFL gave Ron Curse a half a sack. So not a 3-sack game for Micah Parsons, only a 2.5 sack game, 2 tackles for a loss, 3 QB hits. I think this is the best game he's played so far this season.
Yeah, and from reports, apparently on the sideline, he was throwing up all day too. I don't know if he had a flu or something, but Christy Scales was reporting that he was having what was referred to as an ugly stomach issue, and I think she meant ugly aesthetically, not necessarily like severity. So, I mean, impressive. Someone tweeted at me, was this the Micah Parsons flu game? Maybe it wasn't quite as dire or as important as the Jordan's flu game at the time. But as far as a guy who played well while puking his guts out, yeah, sure. I guess that it is his flu game.
Anybody else on defense that you want to mention from this one? This is going to be a crazy week. We're going to do some all 22 stuff tomorrow. But who did you notice from the broadcast standing out on that side of the ball?
DeMarcus Lawrence had a couple of really great plays, including a sack. Obviously, Sam Williams. I just seeing more Sam Williams. I mean, especially on special teams, he's looking great. But seeing more Sam Williams, like as that 3 technique pass rusher, like kind of fully taking the backup role from DeMarcus Lawrence. He just is clearly going to be such a great fit for that DeMarcus Lawrence role whenever D-Law decides to hang it up. That was fun and exciting to watch. I thought Damone Clark was all over the place, and just making tackles and separating guys from the ball at different points. He had a really nice hit on Thielen that separated Thielen from the ball and caused an incompletion. I think, and then real quick, Donovan Wilson. We've been asking for Donovan Wilson to kind of,
finally made a play.
Turn on the play. He made 2. He had a really nice tackle for loss earlier in the game, and then he was able to recover that fumble on the tackle as well. So big game for Donovan Wilson, which was great to see.
Not to be overly negative in a 23-point cover win for the Cowboys, but I don't feel better about their slot corner situation going into next week. That's the one spot on defense that continues to make me feel a little worried going forward.
Yeah, Thielen's a good receiver. I think you're right that without a doubt, Lewis is the weak link in this defense. I mean, I think there's no ways around that. But I also am tipping my cat to Thielen, who I had
some unbelievable catches.
Do you realize that he has? They were talking about it on the radio broadcast. Do you realize that he had as many catches as CeeDee Lamb coming into this game, and as many touchdowns? Like that's the kind of year that Thielen's having this year. So he clearly still had it, and he showed you was able to get open on some rub routes and stuff, and still catching the ball, doing good stuff. So.
Yeah. Overall, the defense did play really well. Only gave up 10 points on the road against the rookie quarterback. You can't ask them to do much more than that. They created 2 turnovers. They had 7 sacks, and it felt like they could have had like 3 or 4 more. Bryce Young just didn't throw the ball away. They absolutely did their job. I want to talk about the offense, Landon, specifically the run game, which still looks a little clunky out there. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Did the game go to timeout? Time to order in with DoorDash. Is it halftime? That is ordering in time. 2-minute warning. You got it. That is your cue to order in. Whenever the game clock stops, that is your time to order in with DoorDash. There's no need to root for your favorite team on an empty stomach. Order pizza, wings, sodas, burgers, or even just buns on DoorDash and get it all delivered without missing the game. I actually ordered DoorDash on Saturday, got some wings. I got a nice slice of chocolate pie from one of my favorite restaurants here out in Corey. Absolutely love DoorDash. You can get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. Again, that is 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter promo code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We want to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Every dayers, we will be back on Tuesday to answer your Twitter questions. We'll do some all 22 review, so make sure you tune in for that. Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys rushing attack. They had 107 rushing yards in this game, only averaged 4 yards per carry. Still a little clunky. Tony Pollard did get into the end zone, but why are they having so much trouble running the ball right now?
Well, I think they had trouble today because they went against a very good defensive tackle who was having a very good game. DaRon Brown was really
Derek
really,
Brown yeah.
was really good. But I think also beyond that too, I think the numbers got a little skewed because as the Cowboys started to pull away, the Panthers knew the Cowboys were going to be running the football to try to salt this thing away. On top of that, you start to sub in some guys in the middle of the fourth quarter when you took a good portion of your running attempts, and you had Chuma Doga and TJ Bass in there, which are great, but they're not Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, right? I still think that at this point you're getting what you need out of the run game. You're not like it still was decently efficient today. It wasn't like completely an inefficient run game, and I think that they've shown at this point that they need the pass game to open up the run game a little bit, that it just helps kind of clear things out at the line of scrimmage, and they just have a lot more success when teams are concerned with stopping the pass and then hitting them with the run. And it also shows that this team is a better second half running team than they are in the first half, right? They want to kind of tenderize you a little bit early, and they're okay with taking 1 and 2 yard carries as long as they're turning into 3 and 5 yard carries in the second half, and they were. And so it's not. I think we're used to a dominant run game that can just force the ball down their throat, or if they weren't, they would still try to force the ball down their throat.
Sure.
And as much as we would like to have that ultra efficient run game that starts early in the game, if the trade-off is what we're getting from this offense in the passing offense, I'm willing to trade that off, because I do think that this offense overall is still incredibly efficient, still moving the ball at a great rate. Now that they've kind of figured out some of their red zone woes, they're scoring at a good rate. I think you can't be great at everything. And I think that the Cowboys have gotten, incremental improvement in their run game, especially in the weeks since Jeff Blasco has been back. And it feels like they've started to kind of mix in a bunch of different run concepts, throw away the Wildcat thing.
Yes,
the Cowboys would have had a much nicer looking run game day if they had just taken away those 2 negative plays, which I think accounted for
to me that just is like they're just trying to put something on tape for like Washington on a short week to worry about, right? Something like that. But I agree with you. To me, the issue seems like on some of these first down runs they're getting 2 yards and they really need to get 4. And honestly, some of it's a running back issue. Like these running backs just aren't creating a lot of yards after contact. And I don't know if that's really Tony Pollard's game. Maybe that's more Rico Dowdle, but that seems like the big issue for me. If you could fix that or just get a little bit more efficient there, I think you'll be okay. I did want to talk about the passing game before we head out. The Cowboys only averaged 5 yards per attempt. Couple of things. This was very much like the Jets game plan of let Dak get rid of the ball quickly and don't take sacks and just try to stay ahead of the chains. They also had guys slip like crazy. I don't know what was going on in that Carolina field, but guys were slipping all over the place. And you had multiple big chunk plays in the passing game down the field. CeeDee Lamb in the first half where they drew like defensive pass interference. You don't get those yards, but those were big plays that came from the passing game. So I wouldn't worry too much about only averaging 5 yards per attempt when Dak was still really efficient in this game.
Yeah, the field turf. I think this may have been only their first or second time to play on that specific turf, right? This year.
You could see.
Yeah, and you could tell they were slipping a lot. And honestly, I think it took away a lot of opportunities for yards after carry and yards after catch. I think that you saw a couple of times where specifically Rico was slipping in the backfield when he was trying to make a cut. I think you saw CeeDee Lamb slip a couple different times. So, they were clearly having a hard time keeping their footing at moments when they were trying to make hard cuts in order to evade defenders. And that's why you saw, I think, Carolina tackled incredibly well today. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Cowboys were falling right in front of them at times.
Yeah. So I'm not worried. The Panthers also just played this kind of defense where they just didn't want to give up big plays. They wanted to have the Cowboys throw the ball underneath, tackle, lots of zone, and they did it. I mean, they really did it because of their cornerbacks. They just didn't have the horses to play a lot of man-to-man coverage. So this is what you got. The Cowboys held the ball for an incredible amount of time in the first half. They had some of these really long drives, but anytime you can put up, they put up 27 points on offense. Is that right? Because they had the pick 6 on defense, 27 points on offense. You control the clock. You don't turn the ball over. You take it.
Yep, absolutely. And look, they've tried to make this an ugly game, and you won by 23 points. I mean, I think that shows you where this team is right now.
And you and I discussed on Friday, style points don't matter on the game before Thanksgiving. All you want to do is come out of that game with a win, be relatively healthy. Again, we're crossing our fingers, but it sounds like the Cowboys were able to do that. Now you've put yourself in a position to play 3 straight home games against 3 inferior opponents. Go win those games, and now you have a chance to do some real damage in the NFC. Job well done by the Dallas Cowboys. That is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Again, every day, we will be back tomorrow to break down all of the Cowboys action from the All-22. We're going to answer your Twitter questions, so make sure that you send them into us. We also wanted to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel with all the top sports stories of the day with our local experts. Absolutely fantastic. You can go check out our show on YouTube, Locked On Cowboys. We are free and available on all platforms. Go follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your victory Monday, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.